So in this video, I'm going to show you how to really integrate your 3D assets using Blender Octane. All right, so I'm really going to unleash the power of Octane. So what I've got here in this, I got this plane here, and on this plane, I just have a simple ground material. Now, we all come across this problem. Like, let's say, for example, I'm going to grab a cube, and this will just be representing my 3D object. And I'm going to go ahead and just put it right on the surface here. And if I come in here, click on my magnet tool, select this and face. And then if I go GZ, it's going to snap down exactly on that face there. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to scale it down a little bit. It is a little bit large here. I'm going to scale it down GZ with the snap tool. There, it's on the plane. I'm going to go ahead and apply the scale on this here. So this is representing our 3D object here. And I wanted to integrate a little bit better with the scene here. Now let's say if I quickly I'm going to throw on a material here and let's just give it a color. I'm going to give it this yellow color. Since the ground is kind of dirty, it would be nice to have a little bit of dirt just accumulating on the bottom of this, right? So here, this is how we're going to quickly set this up. I'm going to jump over here to the full screen. And what I'm going to do is jump in and I'm going to add in a mix materials, okay? This is going to allow us to mix materials, kind of like the mix shader in Cycles. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my ground material. I'm going to click on my ground material, and here is the material that I made for ground. I just grouped it just to make it a little bit more smaller and compact. If we jump inside of here, this is basically it. It's just a ground material with a albedo, a roughness, and a normal map on it, okay? And then I just grouped them together to have a lot more cleaner. Then I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and then we're going to jump back to our box, okay? And on here, we're going to just name this box ground mixed. And now what I do is I'm going to paste that in here. And here it is. Here's our second material. This is going to be, it's back to full screen, our ground material. I'm going to put the output into the second material slot. So what we should have now is theoretically these are both being mixed at 50%. And you can kind of see that here. We have them both mixed at 50%. If I go to full, now there's our second material. And if I go to 0, there's our first material, okay? What we want to do is we want to have just a little bit of this on the bottom here, just a little bit of grunge, a little bit of dirt of this material. So what we're going to do is add in this really cool node called a channel picker. And what the channel picker does, according to the Octane guys here, and this is actually a little bit outdated because the node has been updated, the channel picker node can be used to isolate either the red, blue, or green channels of an incoming texture. And now in the updated version, here is called the channel picker now. I've noticed they've added a couple of new things to it. This conversion button here, we can convert different RG to HSLS, whatever, HSL to RGB, all these different ones, but we're not going to use any of those. And theoretically, this still allows us to separate the 3 channels, again, RGB 1, 2, 3, because of now we're doing different conversion. So we got an input here. What I'm going to do is take this texture out and I'm going to plug it into the amount. If we come here and let's see what's happening now, instead of channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, nothing's really happening, okay? So here's what I want to take the UV coordinates of this box here. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to go tab and switch shift. We're going to go UV coordinates, okay? We're going to take our UV coordinates, plug those into the input. And now if we scroll back in here and go 1, 2, 3. Oh, well, there's channel 3 and all of a sudden everything goes black. Okay, so that's getting closer, but how do we just make it so it's only taking up just a little bit of the bottom? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and set this back to 1. And next what we're going to do, we're going to add in a X, Y, Z to UVW projection node. Okay, this is another projection. I think maybe close to being what a object node or object projection in Cycles. Here it is, to be exact. Our XYZ to UVW projection map are also known as planar projections or flat mapping. This projection takes the coordinates in the world or the object space and uses them as a UVW coordinates. For example, only the X and the Y coordinates are relative, which maps the U and the V. In other words, the image uses a flat mapping projected along the X. You can clearly see here what it's kind of representing, okay? So we've got that going here. And we're gonna go ahead and plug that into the projection. And then from here, let's go back and see what that's gonna do. There's something happening. That's what we're kind of looking for, but it's not on the right side. So let's change our channel. Let's go to channel 2. No, that doesn't really work either. Let's go to channel 3. Ah, that actually kind of worked. But how do we control this? Like if I just lift up the cube, it's just part of the cube. That's cool, but I want to be able to adjust it and make some adjustments. You kind of see I have this null here. Let me go ahead and take this and reset this, apply its transforms. I'm going to go ahead and drag it off to the side here so we can see. Now what we're going to do is jump back on our coordinates here, and let's add one other node here. We're going to go shift and we're going to go OBJ, and we're going to take an Octane object data node. Okay, and we're going to take, again, we want to use an object. Our object is going to be the null, so let's go ahead and just select the null, and we want to take the transformation and plug that into the XYZ transformation. Hey guys, future me here. I've noticed something in the edit that I missed that I'll bring up later in the video. Take a look at this. One thing I forgot to mention, you need to click on, when you use this object data node, you need to have it on Octane and you need to have it on object, and then when you get to your channel picker, you're going to be on 2. That's going to change everything to 2. I mentioned it a little bit later on the video, but anyways, let's get back to the video. So we're basically taking the position of this null and piping it through this XY, this flat projection, and into the UV coordinates and into the channel picker. And now let's jump back, and we have it here, and it looks like something might be working. Let's drag this around. Oh, but it's like a little bit wonky. It's going to the side here. No big deal. Let's click back on our cube and let's go play with our channels. That's not what we want. Let's go to 2. But check this out. One other thing we need to make sure we do. If we come to the XYZ UVW projection, it's an object right now. I want to select it to the world space. Okay, let's select it to the world space, and then let's come back in here and let's see what we got again. And 1, there's 2, and then we got 3 here. Oh, well, 3. Let's click on this. And now let's go GZ, and bada bing. Look at that. That is cool. Now we're actually controlling where we want this to integrate with. So again, if we were to set it just on the bottom there, look at that. We've got just a little bit of this material happening just right there on the bottom. But you can see the fall off is kind of huge, right? Let me go ahead and just bring this in the middle here. The way we can control the fall off is by scaling the node. If I take the null and just scale it down, you can clearly see we're scaling this down also, our fall off here. So now if I go GZ and let's bring that down to something very subtle, down to the ground there. Now we have just a little bit of this integrating just to really help that set into the scene. I think it's very powerful. You can do lots of stuff with this, and it's just a really easy setup. Again, let's jump back over to our node setup and take a look at it. Again, what we basically have is, here are our 2 materials, right? We have our box material, we have our ground material, and then we're plugged them into here to mix them. And then we're controlling the amount with this channel picker here, which is isolating the RGBs of that image. And we chose, you can choose whatever channel you might need. And then you're going to control that with the UV coordinates. You plug the UV coordinates into the input, and then we take our XYZ projection, plug that projection into the projection there, and then we switch this to world space. Okay, make sure we switch that to world space, then our object data node. But you know what, there is one other thing that I do notice. We're using channel 3. I think we can still even optimize this a little bit more. I think I may have forgotten to do this. Let's come back up here and let's go ahead and grab this, and I'm going to go ahead and reset the scale on this. If I come in here and select this object data, right now we're using Blender object. What we should be using is object Octane. Okay, now if we switch that to object Octane, you notice we got a big difference here. I think it's going to allow us to have a little bit more control and a little bit more ease. So I'm going to take and rescale this down a little bit, and let's go GZ. Let's click back on this and let's play with our channels again. I'm going to go to channel 2. Up, there we go, channel 2. And then now if we grab our empty, control Z, there it is. Now it just seems to be playing a little bit more better. Let me GY this so we can see our null right here off to the side. And then again, we can scale it up to do our fall off, scale it down to control our fall off. And that just feels a little bit more better here. And another interesting thing is, if you scale the node all the way in, it's going to flip. So if we have moss or something, you wanted to do some type of moss, you can have that happening on the side there too. So boom, now we've got the moss. So what we should do is, you want your channel picker, select your channel picker on either channel 1, 2, or 3, depending on your needs. But in this setup here, I have it on 2 with the UV coordinate, with the XYZ set to world space. Make sure this is on object Octane, and then here is our empty, whatever you're going to use to control it, and that's coming from the transformation out into the XYZ transformation. If you guys are interested in this, I will have this file available downloaded in our community, and for those of you who are not in the community, I will save a PDF file of this setup, and you guys can possibly use that to help you guys out to remember the setup. Keep rendering. Catch you in the next one. Peace.